Thank you, Chairman Whitehouse, and thank you to all the panel here today. While the exact details of this man-made disaster are still unknown, a few things have become clear. Industry told Congress and the public we could rely on them for safety. Now the era of self-regulation is over for the offshore oil industry. MMS, EPA, the Coast Guard, and the Council on Environmental Quality need to move swiftly to put responsible regulation in place. Another thing that we know, blowout preventers are not and never were a fail-safe. They are a last-ditch measure when the well has had a major failure. The failure on the Deepwater Horizon was not unique. The record shows they often fail. As a result, we need solid regulatory standards to prevent operators from cutting corners on well control. Producers want to drill fast and move fast to save time and money. And Secretary Salazar, you know that behavior very well. Safety requires carefulness instead. Time is money on an offshore oil rig, and there is always an incentive to put profit over safety. This is a classic case for strong regulation. And so I guess this is a question to the whole panel, but Secretary Salazar, focusing on you. And first of all, let me say I have confidence that you are pushing BP as hard as you can to stop the spill and protect ecosystems. And what I'm wondering is the timeline. We have so many, it's been mentioned in the hearing, so many of the studies that are going on and investigations that are going on. And now the President has a comprehensive commission. Could you talk a little bit about the timetable on how you see putting regulations in place, when this is going to happen? Because it's clear from the questioning here that we have a significant number of oil wells that are out there and that are operating. We don't know how many this could happen to tomorrow. And so I think it's important that we get a regulatory hold on this. So please, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much, Senator Udall. Let me just answer that I think there are matters that will happen sequentially here. There have been numerous reforms which we have already initiated within the Department of Interior and MMS. Those will continue even in this week and the weeks ahead. Number two, at the end of this month, the President will receive the report on safety recommendations. We're working very hard with scientists and experts to come up with the best report. The President will make announcements on how we will move forward on that. And then thirdly, the longer-term investigations. They will be overseen by the Presidential Commission, which he has announced and he will appoint the members of. And into that commission will flow the investigations that are underway, including the root cause investigation that's being conducted by the Coast Guard and MMS with an oversight panel, the investigations and reports from the National Academy of Engineering, the investigations which I have ordered through the Inspector General, and other investigations that may be out there. But they should all be funneled into one place. So in a similar vein that happened in the commission related to the Challenger, there will be a report, first of all, about what happened, so the whole truth and nothing but the truth is told. And secondly, that the lessons learned are the best lessons that can be learned from this horrific tragedy.
One of the things that has hit me in a way in the past in terms of regulations is if you look at MMS and you ask how do they promulgate regulations, many offshore regulations originate at the American Petroleum Institute and then are reviewed by MMS. Will MMS take more control over this process in the future as you see it, and how is that going to work?
Senator Udall, the input that comes in comes not only from API, but also from a whole number of professional organizations and scientific organizations. But ultimately, it is the responsibility of MMS as an independent body to decide what those regulations should be. I expect that you're going to be seeing significant changes to some of those regulations, just based on the review that is being conducted, and based on some of the information that I have been gathering as I have gone to visit blowout prevention manufacturers and the like. So this is a time of change, and I think it'll be positive change. It'll help us move forward with the right kind of safety measures in place with respect to the development of oil and gas.
Thank you, and I hope that you move forward, all of you together move forward sooner rather than later in terms of getting some good, solid regulations in place. Administrator Jackson, you used the term in your testimony here when you were referring to dispersants, when you were answering a question, amazed how little science there is on dispersants. The New York Times reported that the dispersants being used in the Gulf were banned in Britain. Is that correct? And if so, do we have any alternatives?
That is correct, but if I may, I'd just like to get a little bit more information because we had looked into that. There were tests done in Britain called Rocky Shore tests, and it appears from what we've learned so far that the reason for the ban had more to do with it, less to do with inherent toxicity and more to do with the near-shore impacts on certain clams and their ability to adhere to the rocky shore. So we're still looking into it, but I think the answer would be yes, perhaps for different reasons and certainly in a different application than here.
How did we get ourselves in a position where we know so little about the science of dispersants? I mean, what do you expect we'll be doing in the future in terms of dispersants, the science, tackling these kinds of oil spills with these kinds of technologies?
Yeah, just so I can be clear, there's certainly some science on dispersants. I don't want to dismiss, good work that's been done. But this incident so far is, an unprecedented volume of dispersants have been used in the Gulf of Mexico. And I think what that means is that lacking any other tools during this time when the release has continued, there's been a real reliance on them, maybe more so than anyone ever thought would happen. And I think that the science hasn't continued along to show whether or not we're having potential impacts. There's nothing to indicate that. Senator, if I thought there were, we would stop it immediately. I've been very hesitant to take it out of the toolkit altogether, but I think long-term impacts to ensure that this stuff does not bioaccumulate. We have no data that shows it does. The MSDS says it doesn't. There have been some valid questions raised about the impact on the water column and the fate and transport. What happens to these dispersed particles? Do they really biodegrade quickly, or do they take a long time? And I think that's fair ground for research.
When you said it doesn't bioaccumulate, was that the MS? Could you tell me what the acronym is?
So sorry, Senator.
No.
MSDS stands for Material Safety Data Sheet. If you look on the Deepwater Horizon Response.com website, that's one of the things that are posted for both the Corexit products that have been used.
Yeah. And if we find that the use of dispersants has had a damaging impact on natural resources, would BP be responsible for those damages as well, based on your understanding or Secretary Salazar's understanding with them, or Nancy Sutley's understanding?
Certainly. My understanding is part of the response itself and the actions that are taken are part of the liability and part of the assessment that will be done. So just again, no one has ever argued that dispersants don't have an impact. We believe it lessens the impact to the marshes, which are so ecologically and economically important, but they are not without any impact. And so that would be certainly part of a damage assessment, I would think.
Yeah. Secretary Salazar, I don't know if you have any final thoughts on that. Just a couple of seconds left here.
I don't have anything to add.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Sutley, no. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and thank you for chairing this hearing and being so instrumental in it.